We tend to take the vast amount of knowledge that we have for granted. It's amazing to think that only a couple of centuries ago, only 10% of the human population could read or write. However, nowadays we have these things called laptops, tablets, smartphones and satellites, allowing us to communicate with each other, to search up different topics on the internet. But how did the knowledge-deprived world become this beautiful place full of information as we know it today? Well, ink and paper is the answer. And this simple object that we found fascinating to research about tells this story that started with a simple Austrian-Hungarian citizen who by chance owned this window of opportunity for us to see through. The 2013 Curator Group 9 brings you the story of the inkwell.
On the first day we got our object, we weren't exactly sure what it was. We thought it might be an egg boiler, an incense holder, or maybe even a candle holder, but unfortunately, all our guesses were wrong. In the end, we found out it was indeed an inkwell. Also, we were confused. There was a small symbol on the bottom of our object. It was in the shape of a circle. It had 3 letters in it, FLW, and we had no clue what it meant.
So as said before, there was the symbol that said FLW, and when I came home one day, I was very frustrated that I didn't know what it was because I knew that this would have been a very good lead. So one day I searched in FLW ceramic marks, and it brought me to this website. And as you can see, it has a clear picture of the mark. So this is how I figured out what the word said, because we couldn't read it at the beginning.
After around 5 days of researching, we still did not know what our object was. The whole group was extremely frustrated, so I was intended to find out what our object was. I went home and looked at the pictures of our object that I took at the palace. And I thought, what does it look like? And then I realised it looked like the ink or the paint pots that we used in Czech school. So I searched up porcelain paint pot. However, I did not find anything. I then thought, wait, it looks like the porcelain ink pots we used at school. So I searched up porcelain ink pot, and it suggested, in Czech, porcelain inkwell. I clicked on this, and it led me to hundreds of pictures of objects that looked extremely similar to our object. I sent an email to my group members, and here is Emma's over-the-top reaction.
When we were first put into our groups, we really didn't know who the others were, but we decided we were stuck together, so we listened to each other and shared thoughts and ideas, and eventually we became to know each other well. But that's when we became off task. But as always, our group leader, Emma, set us straight. Also, like any group, we had our disagreements, but those were just some more challenges overcome.
Now, here are a few facts about our object. Our object was made in between the year 1830 and 1866. Our object is made out of either earthenware or porcelain. However, we aren't entirely sure as we could not find any information about what our object was made out of. The inkwell was used to store quills in this extended lip here, and in these 3 holes, quills or used quills were put to wash them in lukewarm water, which was placed inside the hollow part of the object. This here is a pounce pot, and pounce is a powder which they used before the invention of blotting paper. And pounce, you sprinkle pounce on wet ink, and it helps dry the ink. And this pot here is the actual ink pot itself, and that's where the ink was stored. Also, the ink was made in a town called Tinec nad Sázavou in a factory. This object was mass-produced, so there are surely to be more of it, or of them. A man with the name Count František Vrtba previously founded the factory. However, in the year 1830, the Lobkowitzes bought the factory off him. However, in 1866, the Lobkowitzes then lost possession of the factory. During 1830 and 1866, the factory was owned by FLW, First Lobkowitz Robota. This here is our museum card, or museum thing, and if you quickly read through it, you shall see it shows all the information I've just told you, but in a quicker summary. And also, I think our object should go into, or we think the object should go into the decorative art section, because it is, it looks beautiful and it's very artistic, kind of, because it's used for writing and art as well.
Editing was pretty hard, but it eventually became easier, and the managing was the hardest part. My teammates were so excited to learn more about our object that new things were added every day, and eventually Emma began to help me with it. Also, plagiarizing became a problem in our group. It even got out of hand. But after I explained to my group how bad it could be and the consequences of it, it was put under control and stopped.
So now that we knew what our object was and what the emblem said, we still didn't know what the emblem meant. So one day, at a very frustrating curator session, this call rat came and asked me how we were doing, and I said that we were having trouble. So she took me upstairs to the Czech secretary called Bernika Vodikova, and she helped me figure out that FLW meant Faust Lobkowitz Robota, and she also helped me figure out when that the Lobkowitzes had owned the factory 1830 to 1866, which brought me to the conclusion that our object was made in that time period because of the emblem.
Finding information about Inkle in the internet was a hard job. For me and Andrew was look for the history of ink, because our object mainly revolved around ink. I knew that the resources I used were available because of the bibliographies and the sources were made by professionals. I also researched about porcelain and earthenware in hopes of finding out what the object was made out of. Earthenware is the least expensive and least durable type of pottery made from a lower quality of clay. Porcelain is the most durable and expensive and is made from the highest quality of clay. My conclusion is that the object was probably made out of porcelain, since many of the Lobkowitz decorative arts objects were made out of it.
I was looking for something that is related to ink, so I started looking for the history paper, knowing it was important. The history paper was about what was used before the real paper was made, and it was also about the invention of paper in China and how it went to Europe. I knew the sources I used were reliable because more than one of the sources had given me the same information.
This is just a short entry to our blog and the pictures that I've made for it. This is our blog header. This is the front cover for our flyer. As you can see, I used the same picture but edited slightly. And this is the inside of our object, and I just added the writing. It didn't take very long, but I still am very proud of it because, yeah, I think it looks nice.
This here is our bibliography. We have more, however, we cannot fit them all on the page. And thank you all for coming and listening. Any questions? entirely sure at that time period. We weren't really concentrating on the quills because we were more concentrating on the actual object itself.
But it's a very good question, thank you. Yes?
Okay, so what was the item in the pound? What
Pounds.
was the sand?
It's kind of like baby powder, but it's kind of a yellowish colour, and it was used to help dry ink before the invention of blotting paper, which is the paper we use today. Thank you.